So let's talk about Ohio State facing Maryland and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about Ohio State and Maryland as the 3-0 Buckeyes, number 3 ranked Buckeyes, get ready to take on the Maryland Terrapins at Capital One Field at Maryland Stadium in College Park. Maryland, Justin Fields is on one. 72 of 83 for 908 yards with 11 touchdowns. The dude actually has 13 touchdowns he's responsible for, which means that he's accounted for more touchdowns than he has incompletions. That's ridiculous. Now, Jake Funk, 43 carries, 336 yards over 3 games, 2 tutties. Garrett Wilson is ridiculous. 24 receptions, 344 yards. Go along with Chris Olave, Jameson Williams, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And it seems like Master Teague is taking control of that Ohio State backfield, as I'm hearing that Ohio State fans are upset with how Trey Sermon has started out his career at Ohio State. I'm like, give him some time. Like, the dude is still learning what he's supposed to do there, even as we've seen Master Teague is supposed to be that dude from the jump, and you don't get a Trey Sermon if Master Teague doesn't blow out his Achilles. So I say that you're playing with foul money as it stands right now. That said, Trey Sermon did have 12 carries, 68 yards against Rutgers. And, that's the other thing about Rutgers that I find to be interesting in that game is Ohio State gave up 18 points to Rutgers in the fourth quarter, which means that they didn't close very well after giving up just 3 points in the first half, giving up 6 times that amount against what is not a great college football team, but is a decent college football team, and certainly a better college football team than Penn State is this year. And looking at what Rutgers was doing, I don't know that we're going to get to see a really good test for the Ohio State Buckeyes outside of perhaps Indiana next week, which is wild to say. But Maryland, I feel like, gives the best opportunity for us to find out what is going on with Ohio State, knowing that Penn State is not actually that good. They started off the season thinking that they were going to challenge Ohio State for at least the Big Ten East Championship, or a division title, I should say, not the championship, but the division title. And they can't even do that as they're 0-3 to start for the first time since 2001. Now, I talked a little bit about what's going on with Penn State, but the truth of the matter is you got Maryland, you got Indiana at Ohio Stadium, at Illinois, at Michigan State, and then Michigan at home. Maryland might be the second best team left on that schedule, depending on how you feel about Michigan and what they do against Wisconsin going into this thing. But I'm also really looking at how is the Buckeyes secondary going to perform in these games against teams that can actually throw the ball around. Like Rutgers ain't exactly, that team that's supposed to be able to throw the ball around, and yet Maryland feels like they could 100% give you all the smoke that you want with Taulia Tagovailoa and Raheem Jarrett out there, because I'm looking at what they did against Penn State and what they did against Minnesota, and the thing that you have to say is they put up points. Like against Penn State, Tagovailoa goes 18-26 for 282, 3 touchdowns. Jake Funk, I keep saying James, that's my bad, Jake. 16 carries for 80 yards and a TD. Raheem Jarrett again, 5 catches for 144 yards. Even as Jahan Dotson did what he's doing, 9 catches for 123 yards. And I don't think Sean Clifford played bad. 37 of 57, 340, 3 tutties and 2 picks. I'm sure he would like to get back. But food for thought here, the Terrapins have scored, I believe it's 79 points in the last 2 games. Like, that's damn near 40 points a game. No, 80 points in the last 2 games. Look at there. That's 40 points a game, right? Put aside Northwestern somehow sunning them 43-3, and it feels like the kind of offense that we expected to see from Mike Locksley at Maryland. Now, whether or not that defense can keep up with Ohio State, no, I don't think they can. But I don't think that we're asking them to do that. I think we're just asking them to score with the Buckeyes. And if they can score with the Buckeyes and they can further expose that secondary, you're going to be onto something, because Dante Demas has the tools to beat you. And because I watched Jahan Dotson beat up on Sean Wade. We already spoke a little bit about Raheem Jarrett, the 5-star wide receiver that they landed in the 2019 class that we all were sure was going to be at LSU. And then there's, Tulsa tie. Isaiah Jacobs, that's Josh Jacobs' little brother, has already got 12 carries this year for 29 yards. Penny Boone is, man, I guess at tailback, yeah, Isaiah Jacobs might actually be your third string tailback. That's pretty cool as a true freshman. And they got some moves they want to make. I mean, Chance Campbell leads them in tackles with 33. Jordan Mosley is their best secondary player with 23 tackles and a sack. Like, they're not going to get after you in the way that I would want them to, but who is? Like, outside of, well, nobody in the Big Ten right now is going to challenge Ohio State, not in a meaningful way. And I think that's the one thing that I am leery about if I'm an Ohio State fan. You want to know that this team gets tested just a little bit before they get to the college football playoff, because, I mean, that's what happened with Oklahoma, I think, is they're playing these teams that don't really test them. They're playing down their competition. I'm thinking of 2018 Army, which ended up being a really good football team. And I'm thinking of 2018 Texas, which ended up being a really decent enough football team, right? Decent enough football team. 2019, we're really talking about, can you get through Kansas State, which ended up being a decent football team, but not a great football team. And the great football team that they played, Baylor had them on the ropes, right? You needed a dramatic comeback in Waco to go win that game. I don't know that Ohio State fans want to play with that sort of fire, but I'm here to tell you, if that's what it takes to get you in the shape that you need to be in to beat Notre Dame, to beat Clemson, to beat Alabama, then you want to get it sooner rather than later and get that scare and get your act right before you go and try to beat up on Clemson once again. Because I know that you want them, and I know that they're going to be there. Like, I have more respect for Notre Dame right now, but I'm not ready to pick them in a rematch without Trevor Lawrence and Tyler Davis and Mike Jones and James Skalski. I think if they're healthy, Clemson is able to perhaps contain Kyron Williams, but then again, Notre Dame's been running on every single team they've played. They haven't been able to pass on every single team they've played, but the way that their front seven performed in holding down Travis Etienne, that was not a joke. Other side, DJ Uiagalelei was just dicing them up. Had one of the best performances that I have ever seen from a true freshman quarterback, and I am including Trevor Lawrence in that calculation. Like, that dude was outstanding. And to know that Mike Locksley might be figuring it out at a time when it didn't feel like anybody's going to figure it out, at a time when Michigan is floundering with, a tried and true coach that can beat anybody but it seemed like Penn State and Ohio State, you got to feel good about that. And there are people that already just don't like Mike Locksley for their own reasons. I'm not necessarily here to say what those reasons are, whether they're good or bad or indifferent. I just think that it's interesting that there are people that don't like Mike Locksley. I just didn't think that Mike Locksley was a good coach. I knew they could recruit, but what I saw at New Mexico, I was like, yo, really, dog? For real? Maryland, that's where people go to die. No, actually, Maryland is where you go to get your recruits. And if he can lock up the DMV, that's something else entirely. But that's like saying Rutgers, can you lock up New Jersey? It just hadn't happened, right? But if he can do that, they're going to be good. I mean, nobody knows better than Ohio State what comes out of the DMV. So I'm going to be watching this game as much as I'm watching anything else, especially with Oklahoma in a bye week. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.